So this is the Coaching Masters podcast, and I've recently bought this book. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. So the book is called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Okay, sounds pretty fucking morbid, right? But very, very, very important, very empowering as well when you know how to avoid those regrets. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about what those regrets are and how to avoid them, and then how to introduce them to your clients so your clients can also avoid the regrets, because nobody wants to die with regrets, right? I agree wholeheartedly with that. If I could avoid dying with regrets, then yeah, that is going to be a good position to be in upon my deathbed when I get older. So this book is pretty interesting. I've not finished the book yet. I've just been reading it. I'm skimming through it, and it is good. But this book isn't necessarily what we're going to be talking about today, because these are considered the top 5 regrets of the dying. But you know what? I think this book is completely limited, right? They may be the top 5 in the experience of the woman who wrote the book. And she was I can't remember what's the word for it now. Where she's like an end of life specialist, palliative care, I think they call it. She was a palliative care nurse for 20 years. And what she discovered was that these were the top 5 regrets of the dying. However, I believe there are way more than those top 5, right? And I'll read you what the top 5 are, right? So this, within her research, these are the top 5 regrets that people have when they are lying on their deathbed, right? When they're dying. Regret number 1, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. The second regret, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Very interesting, that one. Now we're going to break these down a little bit, one by one. I feel like there are way more than these top 5, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a moment as well. But let's just focus on the top 5 for now, right? For now. Regret number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Regret number 4, I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. And then regret number 5, I wish I'd let myself be happier. So I'm just going to read these out one more time, right? Just to remind you of what the top 5 regrets of the dying are, according to this book, right? But I think there's more. Regret number 1, I wish I had the courage to live a life truer to myself and not the life others expected of me. And I can imagine a lot of people can resonate with that. Regret number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. We're going to break that one down because that is interesting, because of course I do fully understand the regret of wishing that you hadn't worked so hard within a career that you found unfulfilling. Just putting a little caveat in there, because for instance, I work incredibly hard growing the Coaching Masters every single day. And I cannot imagine getting to a point where I regret that hard work that I've put into TCM, only because of that little caveat, because it utterly fulfills me and I love it and it's my world, right? I'm just going to put that in there because I think we can have the regret, I wish I didn't work so hard, but really it's more a case of I wish I didn't work so hard within that job that I found unfulfilling, right? Then regret number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I feel as though that the generations that are now at the point of being on the deathbed, which is a good couple of generations before my generation, for instance, and this is a bit of a generalization. In fact, this is a big generalization of which we know within the coaching space we try to avoid and we don't do. But anyway, fuck it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to generalize and say that generation, for more so than our generation, were contained in the expression of their feelings. I feel as though that's still something that people could absolutely benefit from in my generation and the younger generations, expressing our feelings a lot more and being a lot more open about that. But I just feel as though we do that more. I think we do that more than the generations that had come before us. The generations that had come before us, and bearing in mind, like I said, this is a generalization. It was a little bit more, the kids are seen and not heard, stiff upper lip, don't talk about what's wrong, don't talk about your feelings and that sort of thing. And I feel like we've made some really good progress in breaking that down and people being more open and honest with their feelings. So that might not be one of the regrets that people of my generation, say, are feeling when they get to the end of their life. But then again, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe we tend to feel that way in general, but we're going to break it down in a minute. Regret number 4, I wish I'd stayed in touch with friends. See, that was an interesting one. That surprised me, that one. Maybe again, because of our generation, we're in the realm of social media. We've got such an instant and quick way of staying in touch with friends. For us, friends are at the other end of a WhatsApp message, a voice note, a video. They're at the other end of Instagram or Facebook, and we can see what they've been doing, and we can see where they've gone, and we can see their children growing up, and we can share that stuff as well. So once again, I feel like that regret is quite heavily generation based, right? Now, the generations, again, that are at the point of losing their life at the moment, at the end of their life, they're on their deathbed. They didn't grow up within that social media generation where they had instant connection to their friends and family. So again, I feel like that may not be one of the regrets that my generation experiences when we get to the end of our life. But who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe we'll feel like we're not really truly connected with our friends and we wish we actually met up with them in person more often. And then regret number 5, according to this book, is I wish I'd let myself be happier. Now, I do want to talk about that one, right? Let's really break this one down, because this is something that can definitely be useful when it comes to working with our clients as well. That 5th regret, I wish I had allowed myself and let myself be happier. So there's really interesting language with that, because that would indicate that happiness is within our power, which of course it is. But we're not always aware of that, and we're not always consciously grasping that idea. A lot of the time, when I say us, right, whenever I talk about this stuff, because it's so much easier to do so, I talk about it from our perspective, right? So I talk about it from the perspective as us, as human beings, as individuals who could benefit from these ideas and these tools and these techniques. But at the same time, be very, very aware that this is, of course, a group for online coaches, right? So take every single tool and technique and method that we talk about, take everything that we talk about and think, I can also apply this to my clients, right? So we're going to apply it to ourselves, because we are also human beings that need development. And at the same time, think, how can I use this with my clients in order to allow them to be happier and more fulfilled and more successful? And therefore, your coaching is more successful. Allowing ourselves to be happy. Now, so many people fall into the trap of thinking that happiness comes from external circumstances. I will be happy when I get that promotion. I will be happy when I buy that car. I will be happy when I've got a beautiful wife or a beautiful husband. I will be happy when this happens, when I go to that place, when I see that thing, when I speak to that person, when I buy that product. There are so many external circumstances that people believe bring happiness. Now, I'm here to give a slightly different opinion of a lot of other coaches say. Now, I am of the belief that there are elements of all of those things that absolutely can, in a huge, gigantic way, contribute towards happiness. However, I'm also of the belief that we do not need to rely on them in order to create happiness. So what do I mean by that? We have the ability to decide, and it is one of the most powerful abilities that any living creature throughout the history of planet Earth, or maybe any other planet as well, it's one of the most powerful things that we have right in front of us at our disposal. Right there, we have the power to make a human decision. You're going to know that this is a little bit of a running theme, because this is, if we can really tap into this idea, this is one of the most powerful, one of the most impactful things, one of the most impactful realizations that we will ever have as human beings. There is one thing that separates us from animals. Now, of course, we know there are multiple things that separate us from animals, but there's one thing that really, really stands out, and that is our ability to think about thoughts, okay? That's our ability to think about the fact that we're thinking. Animals don't have the ability to think about the fact they're thinking because they are purely reactive. They're purely instinctive. How do we know this? Because let's use this as an example, right? I'll just give you one very simple example that just proves the instinctiveness of animals as a collective. Let's say, for instance, you have a herd of deer and a gunshot is fired, right? Up into the air. Boom. Each and every one of those deer will instinctively react in the exact same way. All of their ears will prick up and they will all run. right? There won't be any one deer that stops and thinks, am I or should I be scared of this gunshot? Where did it come from? What was the sound? What was the volume of the gunshot? What was the distance? Based on what I was thinking about yesterday, maybe this isn't going to be a threat. Instead of that, it's just fucking pure instinct, right? I hear it, they're gone. Animals are instinctive. They use their immediate intuition to react in the same way. Human beings have the ability to think about what we're thinking about. Does that make sense? Is this in line with my values? Is this in line with my beliefs? Is this in line with my past experiences? We have the ability to think about ourselves as functional, thinking, decision-making beings. And therefore, we have one very, very, very powerful superpower. And that is the power to make a decision. Now, why is that significant when it comes to that fifth and final regret? That fifth and final regret says, I wish I had let myself be happier. Now, I'm going to take that one step further. Knowing what we know within the coaching space, I'm going to take that one step further and say, I wish I had decided to be happier, because we have that ability, even in the face of adversity. Now, for everybody watching this, maybe you do, maybe you don't know anything about me or anything about my past. A lot of people within the Coaching Masters membership, you will of course know, I've experienced various different horrific adversities throughout my life, as have most people, if not everybody. I was very heavily caught up in the London Bridge terror attacks in 2017. Saw many people lose their life that night, almost lost mine. I lost my dad to suicide a year later, my best friend, just the person who I love and respect more than anyone in this world. And I lost him through suicide through completely shocking and surprising circumstances. And every single one of those adversities, plus all of the others that I don't even talk about, there's always the ability to decide what it is we're thinking and what it is we're feeling within those situations and within those environments. Even when it doesn't feel possible, there's always that one ability, and that ability is the ability to make a decision, a firm human decision. The decision as to what you're going to think, what you're going to feel, what you're going to do, how you're going to speak to yourself inside of your own mind, where you're going to go. All of these things that contribute towards the way that we're feeling in any one situation, we have the ability to decide those things. And that is phenomenal when you think about it. It's mind-blowing that we have that kind of decision-making power that other creatures on this planet don't have. We get to decide what we do, where we go, who we speak to, what we don't do, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, our internal dialogue, how we're speaking to ourselves. We can decide those things. When it comes to that fifth and final one, I believe the difference, right? The thing that really swings it is fully embracing that we have the ability to decide as of now, as of this moment, that we will be happy. We can decide that. We don't have to wait for it. We don't have to wait for external circumstances to arrive in our life before that happens. We don't need to wait until we've got the house, or we've got the car, or we've got the job, or we've got the partner, or we've traveled to that country, we've spoken to that person, we've gone to that place. We don't need to wait for those external circumstances to happen before we say that we're happy. They can contribute towards the happiness that we're feeling in a big, big way. But instead of waiting for those things to happen, we can stop and say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to decide that I'm happy as of today. Have you ever had that experience where you've reached the end of your tether? Right? Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is have you ever had one of those experiences where you're so fed up and you're so upset, or you're so angry, and you're so frustrated, or you're experiencing negative emotions that you don't want, to such an extent where all of a sudden you say, you know what? I'm so sick of this. Actually, I'm just going to decide to be happy instead. I'm going to decide that stuff is no longer going to be my reality. And instead, I'm just going to decide to be happy. I'm going to decide that that isn't my reality. I'm going to decide that that isn't my thought process. I'm going to decide that that's not the way that I'm going to speak to myself or about myself anymore. I'm going to decide not to go to that place. I'm going to decide not to spend time with that person. You just get to a point where you're like, I'm done. Line in the sand moment, they call that. They call it a line in the sand moment. So what we have the ability to do is we have the ability to create a line in the sand moment whenever we want. We can say, today's the day. Line in the sand. I am making the decision that this is how I'm going to feel. And now how can we create that? Because you might be thinking, but hang on a minute, I can't just decide how I feel. How I feel is how I feel. Don't forget the all important equation that I haven't spoken about for a while, but it's a very important equation. What we think about determines how we feel. How we feel determines what action we take. And what action we take determines the results we get in life. So if we want to change the results we get in life, if we want to change what it is we're doing, if we want to change how it is we're feeling, we must go all the way back to the start of that equation and change how we're thinking and change what we're thinking. Now, if our thought process is, I'm not happy now, but I will be when I get that job or I get that car or I date that person, then what will happen is that thought process will immediately create the feeling that you're not happy because that's what you thought about. Or I thought about this. I'm not happy and I won't be happy until I get that thing. And then that creates the feeling of not being happy. And then when you've got the feeling of not being happy, it creates a huge amount of inaction, not doing anything. And what you are doing is not constructive and it's not moving you towards the goals that you want or the things that you want to create. And then therefore the results you get are the results that you don't want. So anytime you find yourself in a situation where the feeling that you have is something that you don't want, right? Negative emotions or something that is not constructive, or it's a negative feeling that is just fucking dragging you down. And, or you recognize that the results that you're getting, right? The actions that you're taking and therefore the results that you're getting are not what you want. We have to always go back to the start of the equation. Just remember, when you find yourself in a situation like that, you're experiencing negative emotions that you don't want. You're taking actions that are not good for you, or maybe a lack of action, and you're not getting the results you want. I want you to stop and think, what was the equation that Liam spoke about that day? Thoughts create feelings. Feelings create actions. Actions create results. Go back to the start of the equation and think, what thought process is creating this emotion right now? And we have the decision to think about something else. How mad is that when you really think about the power in something so simple and so doable that seems so small, but it's huge? The ability to say, I have made the decision that I'm going to think about something else. I've made the decision that my thought process is going to go down this path instead of this path, because I'm choosing to focus on something else. And that is essentially how you change your thought process, is you change your focus, because our focus determines our thought process. What we're focused on is what we'll think about. And remember the rest of the equation. What we think about changes how we feel. How we feel changes the actions we take, and the actions we take change the results that we get. So it always comes back to focus. Everything comes back to focus. What you are focused on is what you will think about. And then the rest of the equation happens. So when we look at that fifth one, it really stands out to me, that fifth final regret. It really stands out when it says, I wish I'd let myself be happier. And again, we as coaches, we've taken it one step further. We haven't even just said, I wish I'd let myself be happier. I wished I had decided to be happier. And we can do that. We have the ability to do that by focusing on the things that makes us happy, opposed to focusing on the things that make us sad, that then eventually will become a regret. Now, I can imagine, and don't beat yourselves up about this whatsoever, because this is just a part of being a human being, right? It's the way that our brain works. It's the way that our mind works. It's the way that we're constructed. We are all the same. We're all the same, right? Including myself, because we're humans and we are problem solvers and problem finders. So our brain is constructed in such a way that we will recognize that which does not repeat itself on a daily basis. So what do I mean by that? So I'll give you a really good analogy for this. This was a test. This was an experiment that was done. I can't remember who did this experiment. I read it, and I think I read this in the book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, which is like a phenomenal book. If you ever get a chance to read The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, definitely read it. And they talk about this experiment where they took a group of monks, Shaolin monks, and they put them in one room, and they took a group of completely normal people and they put them in another room, and they hooked them up to like all of these machines so they could read their vital signs and all of this stuff, right? And in these rooms, there was literally nothing, right? There was nothing in either room except a ticking clock. That was the only thing that was in both of the rooms. And what they had come to discover is that the monks who had trained themselves to be very, very, very present in the moment, they recognized and consciously thought about each tick of the clock. Every time the clock ticked, and it would go tick, 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 tick. Every single tick, the monks recognized the tick. They consciously absorbed that information and they consciously thought about the tick. The normal people, i.e. us, me and you, those people, after just a few ticks, those ticks fell immediately into their subconscious mind. They were not consciously aware that that clock was ticking. Now, why is that important? It's important because we tend to immediately forget about those things that repeat themselves on a daily basis. If something repeats itself every single day, it falls into the back of our subconscious and we no longer think about it. Why is that significant? That is significant because think about the things that repeat themselves on a daily basis that utterly deserve every single ounce of our attention and love and appreciation, and we don't give it. For instance, clean water coming out the tap. Clean, drinkable water whenever you want, literally at the other end of a tap. Being able to just turn it on and turn it off. That is something that repeats itself every single day. Every day. The reason that we don't consciously wake up every single morning and think, I am so utterly blessed that I have clean water coming out of my tap every day. And as long as I've got that, my life is good. The reason we don't think that is because it repeats itself every single day, day after day after day. However, the moment that that is taken away, that will become the only thing we can think about. If clean water was immediately removed from our life, and it wasn't something that we were able to instantly take hold of and instantly have, we would be consciously thinking about it and worrying about it on a constant basis because it is absolutely essential for our survival. So why don't we, in that case, if it's so essential to our survival and it's such a key thing we would hate to lose, why are we not waking up every single day filled with gratitude, thinking, I've got that clean water, and as long as I've got it, everything else is a bonus? Think about loved ones, healthy loved ones. Healthy loved ones, that is something that tends to repeat itself every single day, right? So then immediately, as soon as one of our loved ones gets sick, it's the only thing we can think about, because what it's done is it's disrupted the pattern. It's disrupted the repetition, the things that repeat themselves every single day. All of a sudden, there's something immediately in front of us that is a disruption to the pattern, and we can't stop thinking about it. So the reason why this is really important is the amazing things in our life, the things that will stop us from getting to our deathbeds and regretting the life that we lived, the things that should fuel us with gratitude on a daily basis, they always tend to repeat themselves. And the things that are a problem, they're things that present themselves to us when we're not expecting it, and they're not part of the daily norm, right? They're things that present themselves to us and they immediately become a problem. And as long as they're a problem, they're disrupting the pattern of our daily norm, right? So we're focused on them. Like, think about this. When you have a worry, and there's something that has created stress or anxiety or worry, and it's disrupted the pattern of your daily norm. When you wake up in the morning, you think about that. You don't immediately wake up and think, yeah, but I have clean water coming out the tap. And as long as I've got that, actually, I'm okay. And as long as I've got that, and I've got food in the cupboard, and I've got a roof over my head, and my loved ones are well, then everything else that I'm worrying about isn't really that bad. It's not that much of a worry, right? We don't do that because the stuff that we have that will fuel us with gratitude, it repeats itself on a daily basis like the ticking clock. And as long as it repeats itself, it will fall into the depths of our subconscious. So what do we do about that? That's the question, is it? What do we actually do about that? Well, remember the equation. What you focus on, right? What you focus on is what you'll think about. What you think about determines how you feel. How you feel determines the actions you do or do not take. And the actions you take determine the results you get. So we have the ability to go back to that one very simple but very powerful ability to decide what we're going to focus on. So the best way of avoiding that fifth and final regret of not allowing yourself to be happier, you must make the decision that you're going to focus on the things that fuel you with gratitude and allow that to overpower the things that tend to worry you. Now, of course, there will be things that present themselves in our lives that deserve worry, right? This again is a bit slightly different opinion to what a lot of other coaches say when they stand up on stage. There are certain things that will happen within our life that deserve that moment of worry and that moment of tension and that moment of stress, because that's our fight or flight system. That's us lighting a fire under our arses to go and sort out whatever it is that is causing the problem. The biggest issue is that fight or flight tends to happen, and then the stress, the tension, and the worry presents itself. But for the most part, people don't immediately take the action to try to then solve the problem. So it remains a problem, and it manifests, and it grows, and it becomes the thing that you think about on a daily basis. Whereas that instant worry, that tension, that stress, what that is it's a boost of energy. It's a boost of your battery so that you can immediately take action to go and change whatever it is that's causing the worry, right? Or creating the worry. Then you might ask yourself, but what about those things that I don't have the power to change? What about the things that it's not within my realm of influence? It's not within my realm of power. I don't have the ability to do anything to change that thing. Those are the moments where the power of the human decision is even more vital. Because if something is outside of your circle of influence, this is what we call it, your circle of influence, your circle of power. If something is outside of your ability to change it, then it's even more of a reason not to focus on it. That is the number one reason you will ever have to decide not to focus on the thing that is creating the thought process, that's creating the worry, that's creating the lack of action. If it is within your realm of influence, if it is within your realm of power and you have the ability to change it and do something about it, then use the worry, the stress, the tension, the anxiousness to give you that burst of energy required to go and fix the problem, to go and actually do something about what's causing the problem. If it's something that is outside of your circle of influence and your circle of attention, then that's where we say, I'm going to make a decision now, as of now, today, line in the sand moment, that is not going to hold my attention. I am no longer going to give that my focus or my attention because it creates a thought process that I don't like, that creates negative emotions that I don't need, that stops me from taking action, and it gives me really shitty results. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on these things that actually give me a very constructive thought process. Therefore, positive emotions, positive actions, positive results. We have the ability to decide where we place our focus. When it comes to this book, those people on their deathbed who have said, I really regret not being happier, not letting myself be happier. What they're essentially saying is, I wish I had focused on different things. That's essentially what they're saying. I wish I had put my focus into different things, into things that would fill me with gratitude, with love, with excitement, with exhilaration, with confidence, with calmness, positive emotions. They're essentially saying, I wish I had put my focus into other things that fuel me with positive emotions, rather than focusing on things that worry me, stress me out, but most importantly, things I cannot influence. Because what I'm talking about here is a big equation. This whole thing is like a maths equation. But the reason why that's so comforting and that's so empowering is because if it's an equation, in order to get the result that we want, we just have to follow the equation. That's all we have to do. We just don't detour away from the equation. It's like, right, okay, is this something that's gonna fuel me with thoughts of gratitude, or is it something that's going to fill me with thoughts of stress or worry? Okay, right, it's stress and worry. But is it something that I have influence over, or is it something I don't? Okay, I do. Therefore, I'm going to go all the way up here to action, and I'm going to take action to change it. If it's something I don't have influence over, I'm going to make a firm decision that it's not something I'm going to focus on. So I need something else to focus on. So as an alternative, I'm going to focus on this person or this place or this thing or this experience, whatever, that actually gives me a thought process that I want. And that thought process is this, and it's going to fill me with this positive emotion. The whole thing is an equation. That's why this is so fucking exciting, because we do not need to be these people. We don't need to be these people, the people that were on their deathbed saying that they regretted all of these things. We don't need to be those people. We just need to crack the equation. Now, of course, that's why I love coaching so much, because coaching is 100% about these kind of thought processes, these kind of equations. So we can figure out the journey, we can figure out the equation and get the answer and just follow the process. This is actually super easy as well. That's the best thing about this, is it's not overly complicated. You don't need a 4-year psychology degree. You don't need to go and spend years in front of a counselor or therapist or whatever. We can crack the code, right? Us, me and you together as a team inside of Coaching Mastery, inside of the Coaching Masters, we can crack the code. And this is one of many codes, right, that are easy to crack. It's one of many equations that's easy to understand. But it all stems from not wanting to be this person. For instance, I've just got some more to read out to you. These are some others that I found. I wish I wouldn't have compared myself to others. I wish I had taken more action. I wish I had tuned out the world, right? I.e., thought for yourself. I wish I didn't wait to start tomorrow. I wish I had taken more chances. I wish I had just kept going. I wish I'd told others how much I love them. I wish I was content with what I had. I wish I took better care of my body. I wish I'd listened to others more. I wish I'd not held that grudge. I wish I'd traveled more. I wish I'd laughed it off. I wish I'd left work at work, right, and not taken it home with me. I wish I'd stayed in touch with friends. I wish I was more aware of the real world around me. I wish I had more confidence in myself. I wish I trusted my intuition. I wish I joined a better crowd, and I wish I walked the walk, right? So, I mean, they're just a few other ones that, you know, I found online that a lot of people say that they regret. Every single one of them, without fail, every single one of them stems from focus. Everyone, without fail. It will stem from essentially saying, I wish I focused on this instead of this. We have the ability to make the decision as to what we focus on. We just need to know what to focus on. We need to give ourselves an alternative to that in which we are currently focusing on. If what we're currently focusing on is giving us a thought process that we don't want, therefore feelings that we don't want, therefore actions that we don't want, therefore results that we don't want. So we have to go back to the beginning of the equation and say, in that case, what do I want to focus on? What can I focus on that will give me a constructive, positive thought process that I want to think about? And therefore, feelings that I want to feel, actions that I want to take, and results that I want to get. We are the only creatures on earth that have the ability to do that. You beat however many trillions of other sperm in order to be born. You won the race of life, the one that really matters above everything else. Don't waste it on worry and stress and tension and regrets, especially if that stuff is outside of your circle of influence, if it is outside of your ability to change what is worrying you and stressing you out. You have won an unreal race here to be in this world. And we weren't designed to sit here worrying about what tomorrow is going to bring, or waking up with anxiety and stress about that bill we have to pay, or that job we have to go to, or that person we have to speak to, whatever, right? There are much, much, much bigger realms of focus that we can put our time and attention into, and we have the ability to do it. We just need to decide to do it. And those will be the things that will help you avoid these horrible regrets at the end of your life. And introduce this to your clients as well. Inspire your clients with these ideas. They have won the exact same race that we have won in order to be here and to be living and have a life. We all won the race. I don't even know the statistics behind the statistics behind being alive must be astronomical to a point that it can't be calculated. People say stuff like it's 1 in like 10 trillion. It's way more than that, I would say. Because you've got to think, in order for us to be alive, in order for us to be here today, having been born, every single decision that was ever made with any one of our lineage on the male side, right? And female side, bear it in mind, every single decision they ever made, every time they turned left instead of right, every time they woke up in the morning at 7 a.m. instead of 6, every single thing that contributed towards their lives throughout our entire lineage, all the way back to who knows where, all decisions that they made needed to be made in that order at that time in order for the circumstances to line up that our mum met our dad in that moment and had us in that moment. It's astronomical, the equation, right? The calculation as to how lucky we are to be here. Astronomical, off the charts. Don't fucking waste it with regret. Change your focus and decide what it is you're focused on. I love you all. You're all doing fantastic, incredible things in this world, becoming coaches and helping your clients. The ripple effect that you're creating, you don't even know about yet. Trust me. I've had clients of clients of clients go out there and say that they changed somebody's life. And I think, wow, that really comes all the way back to me and the people that taught me. So you're creating an amazing ripple effect that you don't even know about at this stage. So keep driving forward, keep moving forward. I love you all. You're amazing. Keep coaching your way to freedom. Mwah. And I will speak to you very, very soon.